Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, Bot Brag for short. I'm over Box, and here are my top 10 Don Siegel films. So a few films of his that didn't make the cut are Right and Cell Block 11. The Lineup, a film I haven't seen, but it's supposed to be really good. Should have seen it really in order to do this. Telephone, which is like a kooky Cold War thriller with Charles Bronson that I quite like as well. Siegel's films are lean and mean. They're relatively short in length, and they show a lot of economy of storytelling. And modern directors would do well to watch his films and learn something from them, because modern films are far too long. So coming in number 10 is 1976 film The Shootist. Now what particularly distinguishes this is it's John Wayne's final film, and it's quite interesting. It comes at a time when the Western's coming to its end. Eastwood makes Outlaw Josey Wales in 76 as well. The only Western after that is Eagle's Wing, 1978, I think, with Martin Sheen, and there's a long gap, and then they try Silverado, Pale Rider. It's not really till Unforgiven that another great Western's made, and then, there hasn't really been a great Western since, but obviously great Westerns were the most popular film, art form and TV thing in American culture for a long time. But this is very clever. It plays on the Duke's kind of real life film persona, pardon me, and the character he's playing in the film is suffering from cancer, as the Duke was in real life. Lovely supporting performance from James Stewart in this as well. It's got a good cast. Let me just have a look again. You got Lauren Bacall, Ron Howard, Scatman Crows, John Carradine. Really good. I think the only thing I'm not so keen on this, I mean, Bruce Surtees is a great cinematographer, but it just looks a little brown and a little TV-ish, this film, for me. But it's a good Western, and one of John Wayne's better ones. I'm not a massive John Wayne fan, must confess. So that's my number 10 choice. My number 9 is his 1974 spy thriller, The Black Windmill, with Michael Caine. Now, Caine has after he makes Get Cart and Sleuth in 71, 72, he has his 1970s are piss poor apart from The Man Who Would Be King. Really, but this is the one film that stands out. It's a good, solid spy thriller, very British, quite disturbing to kidnap his son, and the sort of allusions to how his son's been treated. But quite interesting enough, the kidnapper was played by John Vernon, who John Vernon next year would play a kidnapper in Brannigan as well, and he's also in Dirty Harry as the mayor. So good actor, good British cast. Clive Revell, Donald Pleasance, Janet Suzman. It's good. It's got a cool Roy Budd soundtrack. Also did Get Carter. Caine's good in it, and it's got a great climax in the Windmills, which is the Clayton Windmills near Brighton in the Sussex Downs. Really, really spectacular, quite tense. So this film kind of gets not great reviews, but I think it's good. It's definitely worth checking out, and it's one of the few good 70s Caine films, and shows Siegel's touch at making something distinctly British. Number 8 is Madigan. Now this is his 1968 cop thriller with Richard Widmark. I think what distinguishes this is it's a kind of really pure cop film. Widmark wears a fedora hat, he wears a long grey trench coat, and he goes around and solves the case. I forget the timeline of this, but it's quite real time. But what's unusual, the Widmark character actually dies at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. But later on they actually made a TV show, I think, with Richard Widmark. It's in the screenplays by Abraham Polonsky. He did Tell 'em Willy Boys here, which is a kind of quite rare Western starring Michael J. Pollan and Robert Redford. But you got Henry Fonda in it as well. Don Stroud's in it as well from Coogan's Bluff, which he will appear in this year as well. It's just totally just plot driven, no frills cop thriller. This is an era of Bullet and going into French Connection, so kind of the last kind of film like this before cops kind of change in a way. Okay, next up is Coogan's Bluff. So I just mentioned that before. I'm just checking actually, like the length of Madigan, it's 101 minutes. And I said his films were lean and mean. Coogan's Bluff, 94 minutes. He doesn't, the Black Windmill, and usually 106 minutes, a little longer. This guy, he doesn't need 2.5 hours like people who make Marvel films and superhero films. And so on. Just give him 100 minutes and he'll do the job. So Coogan's Bluff, this is a key film. It's his first collaboration with Clint Eastwood. That's the first port of call. But what it also does is manage to break Clint out of the cowboy cycle. So at this point, Clint's done a Dollars trilogy in Italy. That's been released in America in '67, and he's become a star. So it kind of plays on this cowboy image with, he wears a hat, a cowboy hat, and he's from probably Texas, I think. And he goes to New York to extradite a criminal. And that's what the TV series McCloud was based on, this film with Dennis Weaver, he of Duel fame. This was a modest hit, $1.5 million budget and $3 million gross. But it's a decent cop thriller. What's interesting, it kind of gets into the kind of hippie era in New York, and then it counter punches that with the straightness of the Eastwood character. Good cast. Susan Clark's good in it. It's Don Stroud, who we mentioned. He was in the previous film Manigan I mentioned. Good character actor. Good at villains. Lee J. Cobb as well is really good as the kind of New York police boss, as it were. This is a good one. And Eastwood did Hang 'em High this year in '68, which did quite well. And that really kind of set him running. He got his Hollywood career going. So that's my number 7 choice, Coogan's Bluff. Okay, and the next one. Okay, so this is like probably his first classic film. And you'll know this one. And it's from 1956, and it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So this is classic sci-fi B movie, the classic Reds Under the Bed movie. So alien pod people start cloning and taking over humans' bodies, cloning them, and removing all the personality. So it taps into that fear of communism, the fear that your individuality being a kind of representation of American capitalism, will be assimilated into a red wave of oneness, I suppose. So Reds Under the Bed films are very popular. Invaders from Mars, films like that, which tap into those fears. The slang expression "pod people," often gets used still in culture, and it was a pretty big hit. This Kevin McCarthy's really good. He's got Dana Winter. Great remake of this in 1978 by Philip Kaufman with Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams. I would actually say I probably prefer that. It's paranoid conspiracy sort of stylings appeal to me more. But there's no doubt this is a top film. I saw this as a kid way back 40 years ago. It's chilling, and I still really like it now. So that's my number 6 place, Invasion of Body Snatchers. Just say this was remade as well. Forget what the title of the film is, but it's Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman. The Invasion of something came and went. A German filmmaker did the Hitler one. I forget what it's called now. The one with Bruno Ganz, with all the memes on Facebook. I'm forgetting everything now. Okay, so next one coming in at number 5 is Charlie Varek. This is his excellent crime thriller he did in 1973. So this wasn't a hit at the time, but it actually got some BAFTA recognition for Walter Matthau. Really good. Walter Matthau's excellent. Andrew Robinson, the Scorpio Killer's brilliant. And Joe Don Baker is really chilling as Molly. He plays like a mob enforcer who goes around hunting for the money. John Vernon's in it as well. He's really good. It's just another lean, mean film. Again, 111 minutes, a little longer normally than a Siegel film would be. But it's just a really good plot, and it's got a great payoff. And what's really good about it as well is Matthau. We know him from his sort of cynical comedy persona. And it's got a little of that, but he does the dramatic thing really well. It's got a botched bank heist at the start. It does the kind of small town America thing and small town criminal. I actually had this in my top 10 American crime films. Real cult film. Excellent. I mean, I'm looking for any more intel. It was well received, but just wasn't a hit. But great film if you can check it out. Okay, so coming in at number 4 is one of his biggest hits, and it's Escape from Alcatraz. This is his last top film. It's his last film with Clint Eastwood. Bruce Surtees doing the photography again. Great music by Jerry Fielding. Brilliant Patrick McGowan. But this had a budget of $8 million and its box office $43 million back in '79. So put that into context, you'd be looking at close to 200 million gross now. So profitable film. Really good. Really gets one of the best prison films. If you see my prison top 10 Spoiler alert, it's in there. In actual fact, I would argue this is probably one of the first prison films people see, because invariably when I was growing up, if you're into movies, you're going to be into Clint Eastwood, he's one of those popular stars. So this is going to be one of the first, if not the first, prison film you'll see. Really good. This sort of, I like the way the escape's done. McGowan's excellent. And he's quite sort of, what's the word? The kind of photography is very stark, and it's kind of got a slow pace, and it captures prison life. 112 minutes, so the longest one of his films I picked up to now, I think, apart from The Shootist. Yeah, just an excellent thriller. No, The Shootist is 100 minutes, sorry. Just checking that again. So yeah, love that. One of the all-time prison films. So number 3 choice is an unusual one. This was made for TV in America, but it got a cinema release in the UK. Like Duel, like films like that. And it's his remake of Ernest Hemingway's The Killers. So The Killers was first made in 1946 by Robert C. Mark and starring Burt Lancaster and Ava Gardner in star-making roles, really. But this is excellent. The first time I saw this was I was visiting my gran in Coventry, and she had an upstairs flat in Kenilworth, and at night, usually, this was summer holidays or Easter, and we'd settle down to watch the film. It was the first time I saw The Omega Man that way, the Charlton Heston film. But this came on, I just got drawn in, but the principal reason we were interested in it probably is it's Ronald Reagan's last film, and it's the only time he plays a villain. And funnily enough, he's very good as the villain. What a surprise. So Reagan's in this, but it's got a great performance by John Cassavetes. They really should remake this film, because the fatalism and the nihilism of the character Cassavetes plays is kind of thing that can be permanently cycled. You could easily remake this as a neo-noir now with like a Casey Affleck or an actor like that. It's really good. Lee Marvin and Clu Gulaga are excellent. They play 2 hitmen. And what happens, the plot is at the start they kill the Cassavetes character, and he just doesn't hold up a fight. And Marvin's like, why is that? He's like, how's that happened? And then he starts to investigate, and they investigate the history of the Cassavetes character and why they've been hired by the guy to kill him. And he's actually a former race driver. Angie Dickinson's in it. It's really good. It's got a great last line. Marvin gets, spoiler alert, Marvin gets shot, and he goes, "Lady, I don't have the time." Brilliant. It's just very, very bleak, and 95 minutes. Excellent. Norman Fell's good in it. Claude Akins. These are good character actors. Yeah, this is just a cracking film. It just it hasn't been on TV for a long time. I saw it a while ago. I saw it a couple of times when I was younger. A while ago I saw it again. But it's just really good. It's that lean and mean thing again. Great with male actors. Good though with females. He does have good female characters as well in Siegel's film. But there's no bullshit. If Tarantino remade this, it'd be 2.5 hours long. Not that I don't like Tarantino, but just brilliant at kind of getting it done, Siegel. My number 2 choice is probably one of the most interesting collaborations between Eastwood and Siegel. So this film failed at the time. It was a rare flop for Eastwood. At this point, he's doing Dirty Harry, he's done Where Eagles Dare. He's basically ascending to become the biggest film star in the world. And it's The Beguiled. So this was remade by Sofia Coppola recently with Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman. But it's all right. Watch this one. The way I describe this film, it's got a great streak of American Gothic. You don't really get many films like that now, where you've got American period films, and it's like that kind of they've got that kind of shadowiness and kind of net curtains in the dark house type thing. There's Burnt Offerings, the horror film from '75, kind of captures that a bit for me, with Oliver Reed, Karen Black, and the other film I would pick that gives me that vibe. Obviously, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane would have that, although it kind of works better in colour when you've got this gothic element I'm talking about. That's it. The other, not the Nicole Kidman film, the Robert Mulligan horror from, I think, 72. That again, that's got that rural gothicness. I can't describe it really, but if you saw them, great photography by Bruce Surtees, very artful on this. Quite dreamy, hallucinogenic film. Great music by Lalo Schifrin in his kind of eerie experimental mode. Geraldine Page is excellent. Elizabeth Hartman's excellent. Joanne Harris is excellent as well. As she plays like the young sort of girl who's infatuated with Eastwood's character. Basically, he's a Civil War soldier, gets rescued, taken into the house, he's wounded. And obviously this awakens the sexuality of the women in the house. And Eastwood's excellent in it. Plays on the kind of darker side of his persona. Eastwood's very clever that way, because what he did was kind of stretched where his films went, but he didn't stretch himself too much. He understood the value of what he could do. Unlike, say, someone like Steve McQueen, who did An Enemy of the People, completely wrong for his type of star persona. So yeah, let's go through it. Number 10, we had The Shootist, John Wayne's final film. 9, The Black Windmill, really good Michael Caine spy thriller. Number 8, one of the last straight-ahead cop thrillers, Madigan. Number 7, we had, I can't read my bloody writing here. Coogan's Bluff, sorry. Coogan's Bluff. His first collaboration with Clint Eastwood. Number 6, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, B-movie sci-fi classic. 5, Charlie Varek, excellent American crime thriller. 4, one of the all-time best prison films, Escape from Alcatraz. 3, The Killers, his TV movie that actually went to cinema in the UK of Hemingway's The Killers, brilliant. And number 2, The Beguiled, his gothic southern masterpiece. So number 1 is not going to surprise you. It's his biggest hit. It's one of the most famous cop thrillers of all time, and it's the film that made Clint Eastwood a superstar and began his path to being like an icon, really, an icon of American cinema, an icon of American culture, and it's of course Dirty Harry. So let's get the criticism out of the way. You watch it now, I love it, but Dirty Harry's a fascist, really. He's the kind of guy, he'd get you up on trumped up charges, if he knew you were guilty and he couldn't prove it. But I just think this film's so good. Start off 102 minutes, yet again, no fucking around. Great Lalo Schifrin score, brilliant opening shot with that wide angle lens on the gun. Really chilling, the Scorpio killer, played by Andy Robinson, one of the best killers ever one of the best villains, I think, for me. It's like he's gone to Vietnam, got a dear John Lennon, come back as Charles Manson. Brilliant. Rani Santoni, John Vernon, very good. Harry Gardino, great as Harry's boss. And then, of course, you've got Clint Eastwood in his one of his most famous roles. $4 million budget, $36 million box office gross. This was a big hit in its day. One of the biggest hits. Forget where it was in the charts that year. But it's great. I love actually John Milius and Terrence Malick are both uncredited writers. I think Milius came up with this is a 44 Magnum and will blow your head clean off. Great, that opening scene, how that's played out and then flipped at the end. And I love Clint's delivery the first time. It's kind of done smarmy and cynical and with a half laugh. At the end, he's just willing the Scorpio killer to pull his weapon. And there's also that great scene where Clint describes his wife's death at the hands of a drunk driver, and he just goes, "Oh, there was no need for it, really." And it just gives you a little window into Harry. After this, Clint would go on to make Magnum Force, which is really good. What it lacks, though, is Siegel. So the direction on that, there's nothing wrong with it. It's by Ted Post, I think. But he doesn't have Siegel's touch, but it looks good. It's got great music by Lalo Schifrin, and the cops in it, the fascist cops, as it were, work really well. It's actually as well, I forgot to, the Scorpio is usually loosely based on the Zodiac killer, of course, and Zodiac's a film worth watching. I'm just trying to find out for the Magnum Force. Can't see it in here. But anyway, Magnum Force is great. After that, he did The Enforcer, which is pretty not that good. And same with Sudden Impact and the Deadpool. But Dirty Harry's my number 1 Don Siegel film. It's one of my number 1 Clint Eastwood films, and they were a great marriage. I mean, they only made one slight misflower, which was Two Mules for Sister Sarah in 1970, but it's not that bad. Okay, so that's my top 10 Don Siegel. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.